On November 11, 2011, I was at my local GameStop for the midnight release of one of the greatest fantasy epic games of all time, The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. But what is it about this game that keeps fans returning to its fantasy world almost 14 years after its original release? So yeah guys, in this video we're going to be taking a look back at The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim to see what exactly this game is doing that keeps drawing its fans back into its fantasy world almost 14 years after its original release in 2011. This is actually my launch copy of the game that I picked up at the midnight release of Skyrim back in 2011, and I just thought this video would be a ton of fun to make, and I hope you guys enjoy watching it as much as I've enjoyed making it for you guys. But guys, it's time to dive into the video. And when it comes to The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim, what really makes it stand out is that it truly is an unparalleled fantasy sandbox. The world of Skyrim is a virtual playground where anything and everything can happen, and there's often no script. For example, one moment you might be fighting a dragon, and the next you might be wondering why a saber-toothed cat is flying through the sky. Whereas other popular open-world games try to make the player fill a specific role in the game's world, Skyrim, on the other hand, leaves that flexibility up to the player. Are you going to be a stealthy rogue that takes out all their enemies from a distance, or are you going to be a two-handed brute that charges into the battle head first, or neither of these things? Because in Skyrim, the player has final say on what role they want to fill within this open-world fantasy sandbox, whereas in other games that tend to make you fill a specific role within the game's design. But by far, one of the coolest things about Skyrim is the world of Skyrim itself. It has this sense of like, the world has existed far before you ever logged on and will exist far after you stop playing the game. It just feels very lived in. The world itself also feels very alive. The world has its own ecosystem where animals are hunting each other. Hunters are actually going out and hunting in the environment, and it's crazy like how this world feels so realized for a game that came out in 2011. I mean, even small things like this butterfly, which would be just kind of set dressing in other games, is actually something that I can harvest in the game. It's actually there and I can touch it, and it makes this game feel so much more visceral and alive compared to other open world games. And I've always been a fan of the atmospheric details in Skyrim, like the way the mountains are just draped in fog and clouds, making them look truly awesome in the game, or even the smaller details like the way the snow and ice on the mountains is melting and dripping down the bottom of the mountains. Small things like this that just make the world feel so immersive, and in a way kind of makes you feel like you can breathe the air in this game, if that makes any sense. And it's all these things that make the world of Skyrim feel not only alive, but far ahead of its time compared to other games that came out in 2011. But to me personally, one of the things that keeps bringing people back to Skyrim, at least for me, is the fact that, honestly, the game still impresses, not just visually, but gameplay-wise. The random encounters that can happen in this game are nearly unparalleled. I'm still excited every time I'm going through a city and a random dragon encounter happens within the city walls. That was crazy in 2011, and even now, it still blows me away. Like, the unscripted way that the world and mechanics work together is so impressive even today, that even whenever I boot up Skyrim now, I get this sense of unparalleled excitement, because like, you never know what's going to happen during a play session of Skyrim, because it feels like anything can happen at any time. Whether it's going to be something awesome and epic that's going to happen dynamically within the world sandbox, or something absolutely hilarious, you never know what's going to happen when you boot up the game, and Skyrim just gives players this sense of, even though we've been playing this game for over a decade, we haven't seen everything yet, and it's what keeps players returning to the game. But one thing I always found interesting is how Skyrim just exploded when it came to popularity. Everybody back in the day was playing Skyrim, whether they heard of Elder Scrolls or not. And it always made me wonder, is it because Skyrim is just that good of a game? Is it just a masterclass of game design? Or did it get help from other popular media at the time, like HBO's Game of Thrones, which both started their run in 2011 and only grew in popularity? All we know for sure is that Skyrim was the right game at the right time, and it's still drawing fans back all these years later. So I feel we've established that Skyrim's popularity, at least a lot of it, came from the fact that it was just the perfect open-world fantasy sandbox that players could do whatever they wanted in. But what keeps players coming back and what keeps the game feeling fresh, and I feel it's because the base game of Skyrim served as the perfect foundation to be built upon with mods. The same things that made the dynamic open world of Skyrim so great in the base game are only improved upon further when adding more depth to the gameplay through mods. You know that open world fantasy game where you can fight dragons? It only gets better when you can also fish. And it's truly kept the world of Skyrim feeling new and fresh even 14 years after its launch. But over the years, one thing I've noticed about Skyrim is that a lot of fans tend to, in my opinion, unnecessarily hate on the game, but I've come to the conclusion that I don't really think people hate Skyrim at all. People like to act like they hate Skyrim, but I think ultimately what people are thinking is that they really just want more Elder Scrolls. You know, like at the end of the day, Skyrim has been re-released so many different times because it is such a fantastic game. It's such a cultural phenomenon when it comes to the gaming landscape. But for the people that are always just like, oh, Skyrim, I hate this game, I feel like it's less about hating Skyrim and more just about wanting a brand new Elder Scrolls game, because it's been since 2011 since we've gotten an Elder Scrolls game that wasn't either a remaster or an MMO. And I think it's that desire for a brand new Elder Scrolls experience that has those fans that claim that they hate Skyrim feel like they don't like the game, when in reality, if they could re-experience Skyrim for the very first time all over again, I feel like they'd be singing a different tune. But at the end of the day, my favorite thing about Skyrim is, in a weird way, its consistency. Skyrim will always be Skyrim, and maybe it's nostalgia talking, but I've always felt that the fantasy open world sandbox that makes Skyrim so great it's timeless. The dynamic sandbox nature of Skyrim is just a well that won't run dry, and it's escapism at its absolute best, and it's just as potent now as it was at its release in 2011. And it brings me a strange sense of comfort whenever real life gets hard sometimes, that there's a virtual fantasy world out there where there's dragons flying through the sky and mammoths being led around by their giant shepherds. Well guys, you made it to the end. Thank you for watching this video on why this game, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, is so great and why it keeps drawing us back in all these years after its original release. But guys, I adore The Elder Scrolls, and that's the thing, Skyrim itself isn't even my favorite Elder Scrolls game. But what I find interesting is that even though, like, my personal favorite Elder Scrolls is Oblivion, but I find myself, whenever I return to the world of Elder Scrolls, I more often return to Skyrim than I do my favorite Elder Scrolls, like I said, which is Oblivion. And I just thought it'd be a lot of fun to go into why this game in particular keeps drawing us fans back into its fantasy world, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it for you guys. Let me know down in the comments what you think of Skyrim. Are you still playing this game all these years after its release like I am? Let me know down below. I can't wait to read those. But guys, that's all I have for this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.